So we'll go ahead and place that on wait. So the next up is special use permits. And Council Vice President, is this something you would like to start off with? Would you like me to start off with it?
I'm going to ask if you start off.
Sure. So the special use permits, I was a little disheartened when I had gone through and realized that there were special use permits that unfortunately, and I know it's up to the administration, but it appears to me that it's being picked and choose for one and not the other, and I feel that it becomes a liability. So if we're chasing down one gentleman to fill out a special use permit, we should be chasing down every person for a special use permit. And because that wasn't being done, my personal feeling is that we should remove, God bless you, we should remove the ability to pick and choose by just taking out the application procedure, the special use permit procedure. And I know that the counter argument is it's a way to generate revenue, but we're not generating revenue if we're not charging anyone to fill out for the permit. There were some other issues I had with regard to some messages that were left stating, why they would hold back permits, why they would approve permits. I just didn't care for it, quite frankly. I think when this type of policy is in the wrong hands, it could be extremely dangerous and allows for discriminatory practices. So that's where I stand. Councilman Lutz.
I'm 100% behind you. For what happened this year, the last 2 years, it's not worth it. It's really not worth it.
Councilman Davis.
I'm still of the opinion that if we think that things are broken, then we should fix them, even if it's from a simplification standpoint. I need to go back and look, but I believe we overwrote the request for even like the pavilion and Walters Park as a function of this. So we just want to make sure that we do have some type of permanent process to make sure that people can use our facilities on a first come first served basis.
So that was on chapter 422. But what happens? So I'm just going to state it. So let's just say I go and I apply, and I am the first. I know. I mean, there's no way for me to tell them I'm the first, but the administration knows. And then Councilman McVeigh goes, and he's chosen because he's friends with the party who makes the choices. What happens then?
I can't speak to that hypothetical.
I can give you a real one.
I mean,
No. That's, so, I'm trying to. It's happened. That's what I'm trying to get at. It has happened. We have verifiable proof that it's happened, and unfortunately, I think the only way to rectify the situation is to remove the chapter. That's just my personal opinion, but that's why there's 5 of us. Councilwoman DeGirello.
I understand it was put in place for 2 reasons. One was they needed a process to communicate better between the police, their staff, council involvement, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I do understand that intent, and I think that intent of the ordinance is a good part. However, it's kind of all gone south based on what part 2 of it was. We know there's a lot of visitors that come to town for the train excursion, so hence we have the parking ordinance and we have the special use put in place. But it hasn't been filled out for 2 years, and everything the town ended up paying for anyway, by what we can tell. So I'm not sure where we retained any revenue or saved taxpayer dollars if the town ended up paying for everything anyway. I like it as a concept to communicate and keep us all in the know. However, that's not quite working either. It took until towards the end of last year till they realized they even had to give it to council to look at, which it's clear as day. Council's the first point of contact. So again, it falls into enforcement. If we're not going to enforce things, we're only punishing one person that we're making go through this ordeal, and it just seems unfair. So I'd rather have the rules apply to everybody or nobody, so I'm okay removing it, but I do think something needs to be done to accommodate. I think there's other ways to achieve the one part of this that isn't working. So I think we could do a rewrite and make it work better, just a different way. I think I have an idea, but in its existence, it's not being enforced, so.
Excellent. If you want to put your idea down and just get it over to Vicki, we can see what we can do. Or get it over to Council Leonard.
Yes.
Okay. Council Vice President.
Good points made by all, and I believe the two most important words came from you, Council President: discriminatory practices. I don't really need to go beyond that. It's not consistent. And the first person I think about is our clerk in the clerk's office, because when things like this get attention and phone calls come in from the liability portion of what we have going on, because calls will go up on either side, either our side or the party side, who's arguing for this is what they want out of their event and this is what we're trying to protect under what we're trying to go on here. Our clerk's office gets heavily involved. The more calls from our statewide management insurance folks that constantly call into our clerk's office, the last thing I personally want to do is characterize what we have going on here. And I have my reasons, which I'll state privately, I'm not going to state here. But I don't want to put our office in jeopardy for just trying to follow this, and because of discriminatory practices, by either purposeful, accidental, passionate, or whatever reason there is, whatever reason why someone says, no, we're not going to do this, countless hours are spent. Think about what our office can be doing besides this, and we saw what happened this summer. So, and Councilwoman's point, the purpose of it is clear, and it's good, but it needs to be broken down. Is this a rewrite situation? Honestly, because of what happened in the past couple events, I personally would like to completely dismantle this and start from scratch. I don't want to rewrite anything that has had adverse effect on our veterans, has adverse effect on our citizens trying to do community work, and more importantly, our clerk's office. So I would recommend that. And, thank you.
So, okay, Mr. Dickey, you're back. So I have a question for you. Would you mind?
I don't have a problem.
Would you mind step to the podium? So I'm going to use Mr. Dickey as an example.
Council President, I did, as a point of order, we
Sure.
did stipulate that we're not going to welcome comments from the audience.
I'm asking him a question.
Well,
So, Mr. Dickey, we're discussing special use permits, and I have a question for you. You were involved in an issue where you had asked for a permit for a flag burning, was that correct?
Correct.
And the year of that?
It was 2 years ago.
2 years ago, which would have been 2018, or was it 2017? So 2017. And in 2017, when you applied for that permit, that was probably right after they wrote this ordinance, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you held that event?
Correct.
Okay. It's my knowledge that you had received a voicemail, which I think we've all heard, from the party who had approved that permit, correct?
Correct.
And were you or were you not threatened with the removal of the permit because of the language you chose to use during that event?
That is incorrect.
Okay. Would you mind clearing that up for me?
If you don't mind, I will elaborate. It was not that event, it was future events.
So,
Because of something that was that took place, was corrected, because of words that I spoke. I had later fixed my wording, and that was not forwarded back to the said individual.
Sure,
Some of what I said was left out,
sure.
and the gentleman never gave me a chance to explain that, and threatened that any future special use permits by me would have to be reconsidered extreme.
Did you ever try and apply for another special use permit?
No, I have not. The second flag burning, the second flag retirement ceremony that I did was done through the help of Chief Hay and the fire department. They requested the use of the park, of Walters Park, so that I could conduct my flag retirement ceremony. I was not required the second time to fill out the 50 pages that you have to fill out.
But you did fill it out the first time.
The first time I had to fill out, and I had to decide how many porta potties I needed, when I didn't even realize how many people were going to show up.
But that was part of the process, and that's
Yes.
why I'm asking. My sole point here is the phone call that you had received from the approving party that had stated, because they were not happy with the verbiage that you had used,
Correct.
they had threatened to take away future permits, or had implied that they would take away future permits.
Correct, that's what was implied.
So with that being said, and Mr. Dickey, thank you, I appreciate you. I wanted you to be on record
I
because
wanted to go calm down first.
I appreciate that. You can go ahead. Thank you. You can sit down. Because of that, and I wanted to go on record to prove that there are in fact discriminatory practices, and those practices took place before myself and my counterparts took office. It had nothing to do with the sitting council, and it is because of that that I would ask this panel. I do believe that, and I could play the voicemail. I know we could all play the voicemail. I'm sure we all heard the voicemail. Oh, I'm not going to, Councilwoman. I'm not going to play the voicemail. But I do believe we should remove this special use permit because it is dangerous in the hands of individuals who have the maturity level of a 10-year-old, and that is how I feel.
Just for the record, I knew nothing about this. Just so you know.
You didn't know.
I didn't know nothing about it.
I will gladly play you the voicemail after this meeting, Councilman. We can move forward.